They never talk about it, but every man sees it. The quiet guy, the distant one, the man who shows no interest in impressing her. He's the one she starts watching. He's the one she starts thinking about. And before long, he's the one she starts chasing. It confuses the nice guy. It enrages the emotionally available man. And it breaks the heart of the one who actually wanted to stay, because none of them understand what's really happening. They think it's about being bad, being mean, being distant. It's not about coldness, it's about power, the power to not need her. And nobody understood that power better than Niccolò Machiavelli. In a world ruled by appearances, illusions, and desire, Machiavelli didn't just study strategy, he embodied it. He taught one brutal truth: the one who appears to care less controls the bond. And when it comes to women chasing cold men, that's the silent game being played. The man who can withhold attention creates value. The man who can remain emotionally sovereign becomes a mystery. And the man who doesn't chase is the one who ends up being chased. Because a woman doesn't want to lead the emotional rhythm. She wants to feel it. She doesn't want a man who follows her. She wants a man she can't fully figure out. And the moment she can predict you, she stops desiring you. You gave her certainty. She wanted polarity. And that's where most men lose. They want love, connection, and emotional safety. But they project that desire onto someone who's still unconsciously testing them for strength. They try to be chosen, instead of becoming the chooser. That's the reversal. That's the shift. And once you understand this, you stop asking, "Why doesn't she like me?" And you start asking, "Why am I making her the prize?" Because if you are the one with emotional control, you become the one with leverage. Rule 1. Certainty is a repellent. The moment she's sure she has you, she loses the instinct to pursue you. We're not talking about playing hard to get. We're talking about not giving yourself away. Because what costs nothing is valued as such. You don't need to be cold. You just need to be centered, unbothered. Not out of strategy, but because you know who you are without needing her to confirm it. And if this content is making sense to you, then click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. She doesn't remember the man who always said yes. She remembers the man who made her feel something she couldn't name. Rule 2. Power is maintained by restraint. When you give too much, you dissolve your edge. When you reveal everything, you eliminate mystery. And when you're always available, your presence becomes background noise. This doesn't mean ghosting. It doesn't mean ignoring. It means valuing your attention so deeply that giving it becomes an act of intention, not desperation. Machiavelli knew that the appearance of scarcity creates desire, not because it manipulates, but because it signals value. The cold man doesn't chase because he's busy leading his life. And it's that sense of internal direction that makes a woman look twice. Because she doesn't want to guide you. She wants to feel your direction. She doesn't want to mother you. She wants to mirror you. And if you have no center, she has nothing to reflect. Every time you abandon your purpose for her affection, you make her feel less safe, not more. Because your willingness to drop everything for her doesn't say love. It says, "I have no mission greater than this moment." And that's not attractive. It's unsettling. So you pull back, not to punish, but to protect your ground. You stay focused, not to ignore her, but to remain unshaken. And that tension she feels around you, that's not coldness, that's polarity. Rule 3. Make her work for your softness. This is where most men fail. They lead with emotion. They open their heart without asking if it's earned. And worse, they give softness to someone who hasn't shown strength in return. But Machiavelli would never advise that. In fact, he'd say, don't offer kindness as a greeting, offer it as a reward. Why? Because what comes easy is rarely respected. Machiavelli's entire philosophy is rooted in the power of scarcity. He observed that people, especially those in power, only value what seems rare, what isn't easily accessible. And in the realm of romance, emotional openness is one of the rarest, most dangerous currencies a man can offer. If spent too early, it destroys the tension. If spent too freely, it erodes mystery. But if withheld, not cruelly, but wisely, it becomes priceless. Women don't chase men who give everything away. They chase men whose affection feels earned. And the moment your softness becomes predictable, it loses its value. This is why emotionally undisciplined men suffer. They confuse vulnerability with value. But in Machiavellian terms, value isn't in what you feel, it's in how you make others feel. And what's more compelling than the man whose warmth must be won? Here's what happens when you make her work for it. Every compliment you give lands 10 times harder. Every soft touch becomes a reward, not a default. Every moment of emotional connection feels like a breakthrough, not a routine. And that's what Machiavelli teaches us: control perception. Be seen as complex. Let your emotions exist, but do not place them on a platter. Don't tell her you're loyal. Make her earn the experience of your loyalty. Don't explain your softness. Let her discover it through effort, patience, and depth. This doesn't mean being manipulative. It means being intentional. Because softness isn't the problem. Excess is. And if you constantly give without her investing, without her wondering, without her chasing, you're not building love. You're building resentment. Hers, not yours. Because the female psyche doesn't long for what's easy. It longs for the climb, for the discovery, for the man who is not cold by default, but disciplined enough to know when warmth is deserved. Machiavelli would say, "A prince who gives all his power away doesn't inspire devotion, he inspires rebellion." And in love, the same rule applies. Rule 4, confuse her expectations to keep her invested. Machiavelli understood the power of unpredictability. To keep control, he said, never let others anticipate your next move. This applies in politics, and it applies in love. Because nothing kills attraction faster than routine. Nothing drains desire like certainty. Women don't fantasize about perfection. They fantasize about complexity, challenge, the unknown. And when a man becomes emotionally predictable, always available, always agreeable, always explaining himself, he becomes boring. But the cold man, the man she can't figure out entirely, he stays in her mind. Why? Because our brains are wired to solve puzzles, and when someone confuses our expectations, we invest more energy trying to decode them, not out of logic, but out of emotional addiction. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said, men are driven by two main impulses, love and fear. And the cold man, he balances both. He's not cruel, but he's unreadable. He gives warmth, but not always. He opens up, but never all the way. He disappears for a day, then returns like nothing happened. She's left wondering, did I upset him? Is he losing interest? Why do I miss him so much? This isn't accidental. It's psychological pacing, a pattern of gentle disruption. And it works, not because it manipulates her, but because it activates a primal switch, the drive to win him back. But here's the key. This confusion must be balanced. Too much coldness, and she detaches. Too much warmth, and she takes you for granted. But if you master the dance, the rhythm of closeness and distance, you never lose your power. And Machiavelli would argue, power is not about dominance. It's about leverage. She must feel that your presence is a gift, not a given. That your affection is earned, not automatic. And that your absence, even briefly, creates space for her to desire you more. It's not about ghosting or games. It's about understanding timing. You don't need to chase. You don't need to prove. You need to pace her emotions so that her curiosity keeps you alive in her mind long after the moment ends. And that's the Machiavellian secret most men never learn. The one who controls the tempo controls the bond. Rule 5, walk away without warning, and she will chase you forever. Machiavelli never warned rulers to plead with the people. He told them to be feared when necessary, and most importantly, to never beg for loyalty. Because once you lower your power to keep someone, you lose both their respect and their desire. In the realm of attraction, this lesson is lethal. The cold man doesn't just walk away. He does it without warning, without explanation, without blame. Why? because nothing imprints deeper on the female psyche than abrupt detachment, especially when it comes from a man who seemed unfazed the entire time. You see, when you argue or try to convince her to stay, you're feeding her ego, reinforcing her belief that she holds the power. But when you vanish without a trace, you leave behind a void, and that void echoes louder than any words ever could. She replays every moment, overthinks every message, questions her own value, because your silence says, "You were never the center of my life. I gave you access. You lost it." And that's unbearable, not because she loves you, but because she can't control you. Machiavelli would say, this isn't cruelty, it's calculation. Because when a woman thinks she's losing something rare, she fights harder, she justifies, she reaches out, she becomes obsessed with closure, but you never give it to her. And that's the power, not the leaving, but the refusal to explain. Now here's the paradox. When you walk away with indifference, she feels it. Not the performance of indifference, not fake silence, but the real detachment of a man who has already chosen himself. This doesn't work if you're waiting for a reaction. It only works when you've truly let go, not to punish her, but to protect your peace. And, ironically, that's when she comes back, because nothing is more attractive to a woman than a man who doesn't need her validation to feel complete. Rule 6. Be the prize, not the pursuer. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." And while that may seem ruthless, it contains a truth every man must understand. In both politics and love, the one who is pursued holds the power. This is the final rule, and the one most men ignore. If you're the one chasing, explaining, convincing, reassuring, you've already lost, because you've told her without words that she is the prize. And Machiavelli knew, the moment a ruler seems to need the approval of his people, his throne is weakened. Likewise, the moment a man seems to need a woman's presence to feel whole, her attraction begins to fade. Why? Because the cold man is not rude. He's rare. He's selective. He doesn't audition. He doesn't chase. He chooses. He sees his time, attention, and energy as limited royal currency. And not everyone gets access to the palace. This is what women crave, even if they won't admit it. Not a man who's cold from trauma, but a man who's cold from clarity. A man who doesn't fear being alone. A man who sees his life as the main event, and love as a welcome bonus, never the purpose. And here's the punchline Machiavelli would never say directly, but always imply. The colder you are to the wrong woman, the more the right ones will chase you. Because confidence without arrogance, detachment without resentment, and power without noise, that's irresistible. If this resonated, take a moment to subscribe. Drop a comment below, not for the algorithm, but to mark this chapter in your journey. If you made it this far, you're not just watching, you're remembering, returning, reclaiming your inner ground. So trust that the video YouTube shows you next, the one appearing now, is not random. It's the next doorway, the next layer, and it will meet you exactly where you are. We'll see you in the next depth. Depthoria continues.